So the engine is in there. We test fitted it. The next issue I have is, so I'm gonna have to fit the clutch master up, but I've got my dump pipe, and when I space it out at the bottom, it still isn't at the right angle that the turbo's at. So what I'm gonna have to do is chop this, maybe here and here, and just reduce this length so that I've just got an exhaust dumping downwards for Whitey's wiring to do the wiring. You can see here I've got all my fittings ready to go. I've cut all my hoses to length. This is where the water will be. That there's an aftermarket idle valve. It's got a little AN fitting underneath, and that'll have to have a hose come to the intercooler piping up here. Here's my intercooler here. This is a box of the pipes. So it's a G-Ready cooler. These are genuine G-Ready pipes. They're a lot thicker and sturdier than, say, an eBay kit. Didn't come with couplers. You can buy this and that as a kit, but we're just about done with the fuel tank. I'll wait till the gearbox is mated to the engine before I start maybe doing intercooler pipes and all that type of stuff. Might mock it up and then double check there's nothing else I need. There probably is a few little bends and silicon pieces I'll need, so I'll order those while it's getting wired up. Here's the rest of the junk. So this is what goes into a LX to JZ conversion. Here's my gearbox. I've got it back from being serviced. So there it is there. I've fitted the shifter. Now this is called a remote shifter or a tripod shifter, as you can see by this tripod. Now, this plate here differs on some of them. So this is an older model bolt spacing. Okay, what I have here is another tripod. So this part here is off a JZX90. If you can see there, the bolt spacing's different. So the middle bolts don't line up if you have the back lined up, and the front don't line up. So that piece there is to fit a newer JZX110 R154. It will fit an R150 or an R151 from a two-wheel drive Hilux. And there's also a JZX110 non-remote shifter piece, which I actually sold. I bought one, but I sold it to my mate. That puts the shifter about 5 millimeters further forwards than the tripod, I think. So that's that. Right, these are the parts that were replaced when I had the gearbox serviced. I just wanted to get it checked. The guy who I bought it from said it was fine, and I was happy to take his word for it, but the gearbox guy said, look, I'll do it for free. I think I've mentioned that. I'll do it for free. And so basically, Marlin Crawler does a billet version of one of these, which is the thrust washer. So that's a weak point. And then this is the bearing retainer plate. And that's all bent. So that needed replacing. I think I've gone through this actually. This is the shift fork. And you can see inside there it's worn. And then obviously a new bearing and a couple of seals. So the Marlin Crawler parts plus the labor was about 650 Australian dollars. And now I've got a rebuilt gearbox. Picking up the clutch today from Direct Clutch. I'm not sure if I've shown you it. It's a HKS twin plate. We were going to try and put organic plates in it to make it a bit more forgiving, but they said that they wouldn't fit, so they've rebuilt it again with ceramic plates. After a lot of reading, a lot of guys will go just a big single plate clutch, but I read quite a lot, and people say that the HKS clutch that I've got isn't too bad to drive, and it'll definitely take more power and more abuse than the single plate, so we're going to go with that. Plus, I just cannot be bothered buying another flywheel and a clutch, and I just want to get that stupid thing done. So, put the clutch pedal in last night, kind of, just to make sure it would fit. I had to modify it a little bit. I think it was for a Crown Athlete or something like that. I just bought it off Yahoo Japan. I winged it and it looks like it worked. What else we got? We fitted the fuel pump. Here's my digital level sender, which I hope will allow me to use the digital dash. I'll show you the digital dash actually. All right, here's my digital dash. Just there. That's how it's different. So it's got these style plugs on the back. Originally I got one of these plugs from a Toyota Sora, but this one, I don't know where to get another one of these from. Hopefully Sam at Whitey's Wiring, or with some help from somebody else, can get it to work. I really, really want the digital dash. Don't know why. I mean, I guess with A86, digital dash was a cool feature, and when I had a Corolla, having a digital dash was just, you know, it was something pretty cool, and I'd read lots about it. That's how I knew to do the digital fuel sender. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, we're just about done anyway. Just got to still do the fuel lines, whip the engine back out, fit the clutch, the gearbox, put it back in the car, just tidy everything up, and then I'll book it for the wiring. I almost forgot about recording this for the greatest YouTube how to do something with your car series of videos, but I decided to work on it today, and we're currently doing the fuel tank. So I've pulled off a couple of these little buggers. I don't know whether you can see down in there, I got under the car and undid two of the bolts. So here we are underneath the car. Look terrible. Okay, where are we? All right, so that's what it looks like underneath. I took out the bolt there and the bolt there, and then I went back up the top and I pulled out the piece of plastic, and I'm just dismantling it all. What I'm probably going to do is chop these here and then put my barbs on here and just run hose up through into the cabin. I might try and keep this plastic bit intact, but I'll see. By rights, you probably should have hoses going to some sort of bulkhead, and then the bulkhead into the fuel tank. But we're not that fancy, so see what we can get away with. There's the tank in. That's my digital fuel sender. You can see I re-drilled it. That's from a Sora. Hopefully we can use that with the digital dash. Now here's the back of the car, the fuel tank setup. That's out, it's back in, breather's up there. That's out, that's in, it's your breather. I'm gonna delete this and just put a hose. And I've faffed around with this bit. So that sits on there. I think what I'm gonna do, where are you? Is I'm gonna chop it across here. And then, because with that in there, these bits are too, you can't fit the hose on there. So we're gonna chop this. That'll hold those up high enough to then push a hose on and have the hose clamp go across the bottom of here. I just went ahead and did it because I'm sick of waiting. So there's my feed, there's my return, and then here's what I set up. So I put a barb on here for my feed, and then got my return, and then that's the breather going to the top of the tank up here. Yeah, that's about it for that. On to the next bit. All right, made some more progress. I'll just show you here. That's the cut for the transmission. So cut up here and around here. I just copied what somebody else did. Don't know if it's correct yet or not, I'll find out. I'll show you some other bits and pieces. So there's the engine in all its glory. I'm using this carbon fiber intake pipe, and I'm going to drill a hole for this to go in. Haven't quite sorted out this yet. The way I've got it set up is I'm going to be able to delete this metal hose piece. I don't know whether I will yet or not, but all that's going through it is this hose here, and it goes to this metal bit and then it goes to there. So I might just run a complete hose if I can be bothered. I don't know. But the thing I wanted to show you was, so obviously there might be diesel left in the fuel lines. I've shown you the lines that I'm using. I'll show you what I've done. So down here is my feed, and that's my return down there, and I've just put a hose between them. I've put some fuel in the tank, hopefully it's enough, and here's my dodgy setup here. So there's a bottle of fuel and it runs into there. I just took the return line off and I've got this, so it goes down here through the car, back out and into the fuel tank, and then I'll just run a battery, some sort of battery. I was just going to use a 9-volt, but my mate said don't use a 9-volt, so I'll just use the car battery. Just made up some wires with some alligator clips. Yeah, so it's worked. I'll show you. Where are we? So yeah, it's a battery hooked up to the fuel pump, pumping fuel. We've almost pumped it all out. Got to be careful though, the battery was sparking, so you don't want those sparks to ignite any fuel or kaboom. Just test fitted the gate and it fits perfectly. So if you can see down there, the problem we have is this steering rack coming up here. Depending on your manifold and where, so the dump pipe the back of the turbo is about here. I guess you'll see this later. And the dump pipe has to come straight down. And there's a gap for it through there. And then the screamer will come off that guy there. Off that guy there. And go down and around. So that's it there, mounted up. Perfect. So the way I did that, I took the manifold out to Dan at Elite Exhaust and Fabrication, and I sort of figured out roughly where it should go, and then yeah, took some photos from the cut where I'd cut the old wastegate flange off. We sort of decided a couple of degrees inwards and then a couple of degrees upwards, and yeah, sorted. My clamps arrived. Got a couple of T-bar clamps there, a few worm drive clamps. These ones go down quite low. And then these are the original T-bar clamps that I ordered for the turbo outlet and piece of carbon fiber for the intake pipe. We're going to drill a hole and put an AN10 bung in there for the cam cover breather pipe. So I managed to get one right, got this one, and then I must have forgot to order that one. So don't make the mistake I made with these. Put your pipe on and then measure it. So that's what I did with the intercooler pipes. Because these ones here, that's exactly 4 inches, and that one's exactly 3 inches, and that will fit onto this carbon pipe, but it won't fit over that silicon. So don't make the same mistake I did. Other thing is, went and picked up this today. This is a piece of stainless off another guy's car, and it goes from the intercooler piping and then heads towards the turbo like that, and then the turbo will have a snout coming off it and then we'll attach to this. Still got to work that out, but looks like we're gonna have to weld an elbow onto the end of the turbo. Could ghetto do it with a silicon elbow, but I'll just see what it looks like, I guess. Now, the important thing about this guy is this barb here. So that is your boost reference, because you have charged air coming out of the turbo, entering the intercooler, and so that boost reference there is used for, it'll go to your 3-port solenoid, which also tees into your wastegate, etc., which you'll see that later on when it's all set up. Had a slight hiccup. My tail shaft, which was this bit and this bit, going shopping. This bit and this bit came from Japan. It's for an X8 Cressida, and stupidly I thought that it would all work. I fluked it, and the front half fits. Here's an auto. So that's an auto front half, and that's a manual one. yeah, so auto, manual, slightly longer. But mine came with this rear half, and I had a full auto tail shaft, but I sold it. Idiot. So luckily, a gentleman by the name of Kane, he had a rear half of a tail shaft. Also, the center bearing that came on this guy was a bit weird. It was different, so it obviously was from a different car. Luckily, I had this center bearing, which I'd bought a long time ago. So I just fitted it. All you do is you just knock out this indent, unscrew this guy. This guy comes off. This is a spline. And yeah, just whack the center bearing off and then put the new one on, and Bob's your uncle. Made some progress with the shifter hole. Originally, I'd copied somebody else's design that they had cut out, but they, I guess, had lifted the gearbox up from the bottom. I was installing the shifter in from the top, so that's the difference there. So that'll be covered with this fiberglass piece here. So that'll go there. Because I stupidly forgot to, well, I didn't really know to do it, but because I hadn't fitted the remote oil pressure sensor, I had to remove the air conditioner, remove the oil pressure sensor, and so the new one's down here. A few guys I've spoken to have said, no, don't go into a sandwich plate, go directly into the block because you'll get a better reading. And then I've just put my remote sensor here. That's the remote sensor there. And then this one here is the original oil pressure sensor. I'll run that to a gauge, I'd say. So this is today's progress. Got the intercooler mounted. Put some rib nuts in under there. They work quite well. Figured out this bit. Just needs some 45-degree elbows. We've got the wastegate down there. We've got to plumb that up. I've changed the booster. That's an Evo booster. We've got Evo Brembo calipers. So they should work properly. Run the clutch line. Haven't attached that yet. Ran the line for the booster. We have encountered one hiccup, and that is that the tail shaft doesn't bolt up. So the bolt pattern on an LX diff center is not the same as a JZX tail shaft. I do have a diff center from an 8.6, but I need some stub axles. I've got shafts coming from Japan, but yeah, need to find some stub axles, I guess. Not sure what day we're up to. I've just been for a drive to get some more fittings. So the Mac 3-port solenoid uses BSP fittings. The fuel pressure regulator, the sort of side fittings, so the inlet uses BSP, and then the outlet has an NPT barb at the bottom. You can Google all this. BSP is a tapered thread, and the auto parts stores generally don't have BSP stuff. So like for instance, the factory oil sensor is BSP. Just don't be tricked by things online that say they fit BSP/NPT. They're totally different. They might be the same thread pitch, but BSP is tapered. So it like locks in. I've got some reinforced 6mm hose because the wastegate is sitting down underneath the exhaust and near the manifold, etc. So in a very hot area. I guess your typical silicone hose, that's not a real good environment for it. And then I also bought some additional heat shielding for that. So just waiting for the reinforced hose to arrive, then I can plumb all that sort of stuff up properly. I think the next step is I have to make some brackets for the radiator, fuel pressure regulator bracket. I mounted the fuel pressure regulator. I just drilled holes and then used riv nuts. So similar way to mounting the bottom of the intercooler. So just waiting on a couple of fittings and stuff. It's about 10 days, I think, until the car gets towed and the exhaust gets welded on. Luckily, I found some open 6-bolt half shafts, I think people call them. It's all starting to come together. I'm sure these videos are pretty boring to watch, but it's just to get the information out there, or at least to put it all in one place so somebody can go, yep, I want to put a JZ in my LX whatever, and hopefully this helps. You know, if anybody has any additional information or some helpful comments, please feel free to leave them below. If you've done things differently, definitely let us know. I've kind of done things as cheap as possible, so I haven't used AN fittings for, say, the water lines. I've used barbs and hose clamps. You know, I'm not that rich for sure.